School Meals for All Wisconsin. We'll wait just a couple minutes for a couple extra folks to log on. I got a text message from Anita Garrett, one of our favorites, that she wanted to make sure I knew that she was going to be logging on. I have to wait for her.
We have to wait for her. A call won't be complete without Anita.
And Allison put the agenda in for today's meeting. Folks can take a look there and follow along. And well, I don't see Anita just yet. She was on the road, so maybe she will join in a minute. But I think we should get going here, to be respectful of everyone's time. So, welcome to the December 11th Healthy School Meals for All Coalition meeting. Thank you all for being a part of this. Um, as part of the Healthy School Meals for All leadership, my name is Matt Steenstro with Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. Um, uh, and we're also joined, well, actually, Allison, if you want to introduce yourself, and Caitlin and Jackie.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Allison Papp Harris. Getting over a little cold here, so a little raspy voice. But I am the Farm School Director with REAP Food Group, which is a Madison-based nonprofit. I'll turn it over to Caitlin and Stacy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Harrison. Good to see you all again. I am the Food and Nutrition Director at Elmbrook School District and the current SNA Wisconsin upcoming president, just right behind Stacy. I'll turn it over to you, Stacy.
Yeah, welcome everyone. I'm Stacy Nelson. I am the Director of Food and Nutrition Services at the Menominee School District and the current SNA Wisconsin president.
And I'll round out the
And
group. I'm Jackie Anderson, Executive Director at Feeding Wisconsin, where we do advocacy and policy work for the Feeding America food banks throughout the state. Go ahead, Matt.
all right. I'm going to share my screen. Obviously, if you have questions, like please feel free to interrupt or put something in the chat. And for other people, if I'm talking and someone's asked a question, please just interrupt me. Um, okay. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit different than um, what we've done in the past, but I thought it might be nice to kind of go through. Shoot, I didn't take this off. Um, where are we at legislatively right now? And what's happening with the Healthy School Meals for All bill and what options are on the table. So the legislative update is not going to be from an elected official today, but instead we're going to give a little sneak peek of like what's actually happening in the Capitol right now and what do we have to look forward to. So this is the set legislative calendar as it stands, really November through January 2027. Um, Typically, what happens in this time when there's an election the next year is that things kind of slow down. However, what's been happening this December is we've seen a lot more action. There's been a number of different bills and initiatives that have been put forward this session compared to other sessions leading into a midterm or general election that have happened this month. Some of these are things that are responses to what's happened with the federal government's One Big Beautiful Bill Act and the state of Wisconsin looking at how that they can adjust either appropriations or regulations to either comply or to better be prepared for what's happening in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And then there's another interesting thing that's happening at the state capitol too that I'll talk about in a second. Um, but right now, yeah, it's busier than it normally is heading into an election. One of the things I think is important for everyone to realize is that, yes, it's December, and yes, we don't have a hearing for this bill, but the Healthy School Meals for All legislation is very much, technically speaking, alive. It has been proposed. This is the Senate version of the bill. It is in the Committee of Education. It has quite a number of people that are sponsors and co-sponsors, both by senators and representatives. It has a fiscal estimate. It has all the pieces together right there. However, as we're also going to be talking about like other opportunities to be able to increase access to school meals right now, it hasn't moved. As it's no secret to anyone a part of this coalition, a bill of this scale and cost faces significant opposition in the current makeup of the state legislature. However, this is the best way that I could really look at this, but I want to like use this slide as a way to kind of introduce a concept of something that like is happening right now in Madison and also other groups across the country kind of looking at the state of Wisconsin. While I say the current landscape of the state legislature, as of now, the legislature might look a little different in January of 2027 than it does today. Now, yes, this is the governor election winner. These are odds from Polymarket. I only have this up and not the state legislature because I couldn't find betting odds on the Wisconsin state legislature. But there are betting odds right now on who's going to win, what party is going to take over the governor's mansion in after this next election. And this isn't anything other than just where things stand today. And I don't think I'm not advocating for betting, and I'm not advocating to say I'm not in the prediction business at all. But if things go a specific way, if the legislative makeup differs into next session in the state Senate, if things are even a little bit tighter in the state assembly, it could mean that a lot of policy priorities that existed in today's legislative makeup that are no-goes and a hard stop, them or a version of them could be possibilities or something to rally around heading into 2027. Um, so um, that kind of leads into this. So, why do I still think it's important that this bill is alive and that our coalition continues to do strong things into this year, heading into 2026? It's because of what happens between the 2026 election and 2027 session. So going back to here, polymarket odds, obviously we can't read too much into it, but like if things continue to trend this way, and if there's elected officials in power that are more favorable on this issue, what ends up happening between the November election and January inauguration and session in 2027 is the governor's office has a transition team. And this transition team not only has to fill a ton of different positions and things like that, but they immediately start doing work on thinking, what is the state budget going to look like? What is the governor's budget proposal going to look like? Now, in the past, this has been an incredibly important, but ultimately not so meaningful document because the governor puts forth the budget, but because it's an opposition party controlling the state legislature, it's more of a values document than something that the state legislature actually works off of. This has an opportunity to change in 2027. Meaning, as the transition team and the governor's office, if they're friendly on our issue, starts looking at what are they going to be putting together, what options are there, one of the things that they do is they look at what are the bills that were put forth in the last session? What are the opportunities, the pieces of legislation that were put forth and maybe didn't make it out of committee, maybe had some good ideas but didn't really go anywhere? And then of those bills that were there, which ones have existing coalitions? Which ones have like a really good swell of support around them? What are the ideas that we could take and put into a budget that we think not only would be great for the state of Wisconsin, but would get a lot of support from community groups and from the folks that really are going to benefit from certain budgetary investments? I think that sounds a lot like healthy school meals for all, or a version of a policy like that that could get state funding. So, because of that, what are the advocacy or organizing? What type of things need to happen to prepare for this? So, if we know that if there's a chance that there could be a more friendly environmental or legislative makeup and political makeup that could be more into our issue, what are the things that we could do in 2026 to prepare for this? It's meetings, it's data, and it's stories. It's a lot of the things that we talk about a lot, and a ton of us have really dove into starting to do. But it's having conversations with both Republican and Democratic state senators and state representatives. It's identifying what is important pieces of data from your own school district that could be important to helping making the case as to why school meals without a charge is really going to be a critical policy priority. It's stories that go beyond the data that talk about individual family members or students or things that we've seen at schools that can help influence these policymakers and decision makers, things that will stick with them in 2026 through the election year. And then when they're asked about what are the policy priorities that they have, that they talk about healthy school meals for all. We have a ton of opportunities right now through the 2026 election. So while we have this period, we're typically speaking, it's slow. There's not a ton going on going back to this calendar. Especially as we head into the spring of next year and summer, there's still a ton of things that we can be doing while all these elected officials are going to be back in district campaigning. I mean, what better place for them to campaign or for them to like really get to know what's happening in their district than visiting a school during school breakfast week in March and and really thinking about like how school meals and school breakfast plays a role in helping their constituents feed their kids. So there's going to be a ton of opportunities heading into the next calendar year for us to do education of elected officials, and to make sure that we're building the organization that we need, um, to make sure that like when the time comes, if the time comes, hopefully where there's legislative makeup that's really friendly to our issue, that they're thinking of us and that we get put to the front of the table. Um, okay, so that's what I have right now. I'm gonna stop sharing and now I'm gonna kick it over to Allison because we have some other really kind of cool updates of stuff that's been happening with our coalition
Hey,
and with this
Matt,
issue.
before we jump to Allison, can I just ask one quick question to the group? Um, so knowing all that Matt shared, in the chat, it would be amazing if you guys could really think about knowing all the things that need to happen. What resources do you all need? Do you need a legislative toolkit or talking points or email language? Like if you could just drop it in the chat, what would be most useful so that we can help prepare you guys to also then do all those things that Matt talked about just a second ago. All right, sorry, Allison. I just realized if we didn't ask right then, it might get forgotten.
No, that's great, Jackie. Thank you so much. And thank you, Matt. I also want to just, remind folks, if you have any questions for Matt, feel free to drop them in the chat. We can also have a period for questions too. But I think everyone has access to the agenda. I've been trying to drop it in as new folks are joining. A couple of these are carryover from last month. So if you joined us last month, you may hear repeat. But I'll go ahead and highlight as I'm going through the agenda here. We have the opportunity to table at the Wisconsin State Education Convention coming up here in January. It's 2 days, so we're looking at Wednesday, January 21st and Thursday, January 22nd. We did this last year. We had a table and we're able to talk to a lot of individuals from different school districts across the state. We have 2 open tickets, and we're looking for volunteers who want to come represent Healthy School Meals for All on both or either date. If you're interested in learning more, please feel free to reach out to myself or the email that's in the notes here, healthyschoolmealswi@gmail.com. That'll go to the entire leadership team. We want to try to have names solidified by the first part of January, so you've got a little bit of time to think about it, but we'd love to have anyone who is interested in representing the coalition join us, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. Next point I want to highlight, and I think we've got everyone who is involved in this on the call here today. So Jill from Marshfield Clinic recorded a podcast for us, and it was featuring 3 coalition members, so Jason Bertrand, Caitlin Harrison, and myself, talking about universal meals and local impact in advancing food equity in Wisconsin. So definitely check it out. Jill, thank you so much for highlighting Healthy School Meals for All here in Wisconsin. And thank you, Jason and Caitlin, for hopping on to chat. Going on a little bit further down in the agenda, one of the things that we're thinking about going into 2026 is how do we fundraise for the Healthy School Meals for All Coalition? And fundraising dollars are going to be used for things like tabling, flyers, mailers, hosting our website, hosting MailChimp, in order to get the word out about Healthy School Meals for All. So we're interested if you all have any ideas or opportunities that come to mind for ways to help fundraise for the coalition. We'd love to hear your ideas. Now, you're not committing to anything, more so just want to have this, like, if you have something in mind that could be a potential opportunity, please feel free to share it. We do have a fundraising link that if you feel inclined or able that you want to share with folks to donate to, please feel free to share that out. But yeah, we're really, the leadership team right now is really thinking about how do we make sure that the coalition is strong moving into 2026. And one way of doing that is having resources that we can share with coalition members. And I think, Matt, I'm going to then toss it back over to you for the next item in the agenda. Am I correct?
Yeah. All right. So, and from Kansas. All right. So next, something that we wanted to talk about are some of the options that are on the table. We talk a lot about because it is the goal and kind of like the guiding light is healthy school meals for all and making sure that every single kid across the state of Wisconsin, whether you're in Racine or Richland, has access to a school breakfast and school lunch and doesn't have to worry about a charge. We are not there yet. Hopefully, as you heard before, that we're going to be in a place where we're going to have a lot more momentum to be able to get there. But for right now, it's also worth thinking about the fact that nearly, if not all other states that have accomplished this have had stepping stone measures in order to get there. And even before there are statewide stepping stone measures, there's a lot of things that communities, counties, and school districts and individual schools are doing to try and figure out like what are the tools that they have right now to increase access to school meals for kids. During this, I would love insight and for people to speak up so I'm not just talking to everyone and I saw faces and names on this call that I 100% know have expertise in some of these things, and I would love your input into this as well. So why this matters, because it's not statewide, because there continues to be barriers for school meals. And what we want to do is make sure that we're identifying steps that people might be able to even do now to increase access to school meals. All right, so the 3 that I want to talk about, and I think, yeah, so before I dig into kind of school breakfast just a little bit, is elimination or reduced price meals. I know that there are school districts across the state, um, including the one my kids go to, where they look at their budget and they figure one thing that we can do is just eliminate the reduced price meal category and it's gaining for a small percentage, but still significant number of students, the ability to just get free breakfast and lunch. Free school breakfast, I'm going to introduce these and then I'm going to ask for people to give input if they have any insight into what works and what doesn't with them. Free school breakfast. Um, this is something another number of schools have done where they look at their budgets and they think, well, we can't just on our own do free school meals for every single kid, but what we can do, looking at our breakfast participation, looking at how much it costs to produce a breakfast and the reimbursement rates for the state, and looking at the current free reduced price percentage at the school, they can make the decision that they're going to do free school breakfast for every single kid. Um, and then there's the other option too. So these are just three of the more popular options, is community eligibility provision. So this is one, to be honest, each one of these options, all the options is going to be based on whether or not it makes financial sense for the district to do or for a school to do. So no schools are really out there say making a financial decision to say we're going to offer free school breakfast or eliminate reduced price if it's going to put their school their budget in a place where it doesn't make sense to do. Same thing can be said with community eligibility provision. So if at least like, let's just say, to be completely honest, 50% of the kids in a specific school or district um, are come from homes that have higher levels of poverty or participate in programs like SNAP or Food Share, then community eligibility can be a really neat option. In community eligibility provision, this is where a school district can kind of opt in and you get one flat reimbursement rate for every single meal served, both breakfast and lunch. Um, it eliminates free reduced price meal forms. And then, real quick on school breakfast is an additional way to increase access to school meals. And I'm going to say this is not necessarily a policy decision that specifically goes into finances, but there are things that school districts can do to increase the number of free and reduced price meals that kids get without having to do community eligibility or elimination or reduced price. School breakfast right now is still one of the meals that, typically speaking, um, there's more opportunities to be able to serve more kids. So most kids that want a school lunch are getting a school lunch, right? There's more work can be done. There's more that can be done to market the meals, to make sure that kids understand how awesome they are, and if they're getting a cold lunch, to realize like, no, I can get a school lunch. But typically speaking, like that, there's not a lot of upward mobility there. But within the school breakfast program, typically speaking, while 82%, between 80 and 85% of schools that offer school lunch offer school breakfast, of the kids that have a school breakfast in their classrooms, you're really looking at like just 30 to 40% participation rate. So you can typically up that closer to the school lunch participation rate if certain steps are taken, but there's a lot of barriers in getting those steps completed too. And those barriers can cost a lot of money. But there's opportunities. So if a school might be looking at like, hey, I don't know if we can do community eligibility, but maybe a school can think about maybe we can change the time that breakfast is served or the location that the meal is served. Like either A, moving it to in the classroom, B, starting a grab and go program, or C, just keeping the breakfast program open maybe after the first bell is rung. So if a school bus gets there late, kids can pop down and grab a meal. Those are, so that's changing a school breakfast model. That's another kind of like operational model that if it works for a school or district, they can do that in order to increase access to free school meals. Okay, so coming back to this, elimination of reduced price meals, free school breakfast or changing a breakfast model or community eligibility provision. I want to kick it out to the group and see if anyone has any insights. Has anyone seen this work or have any pros or cons for any of these models?
Sure, I can jump in here. We actually, in my previous school district, implemented just a simple, like you were just talking about, change in distribution and process of breakfast specifically. So my previous school district was about 20, 25% free and reduced. And For whatever reason, I think other school nutrition operators would say the same on here. We don't necessarily see 100% of the free and reduced students participate every single day, whether that's an optics thing, whether they are aware that they qualify. There's lots of variables that go into that. So when we transitioned from students coming down to the cafeteria to eat to a school breakfast in the classroom model, not only did we see significant participation increases from those students who are full pay students, we also saw a huge increase from the free and reduced students. And I believe that's, based on the sense of community, right? Like everybody's eating breakfast together. This is the thing that we're doing in our school day. But also, it kind of broke down that barrier of, oh, I have to go down to the cafeteria because I need to get breakfast today, right? It transitioned that from oh, my friends are doing it now in the classroom, and this is, something that everybody's doing versus having to have that one barrier going on in the classroom and maybe potentially looking different than the other students. So I saw positive impact there, transitioning the model of how we serve breakfast.
That's a great example. That's awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. Who
Um,
else? Anyone else have? Go ahead, hop in.
I'll share. So we actually eliminated reduced price meals. And so reduce students that qualify for reduced and students that qualify for free are all receiving the free meals here. I don't know. I feel like this district and my last district that I was at, our reduced numbers aren't that significant. And so if you think about the 40 cents per meal, it really isn't that much of a loss by eliminating it. Um, and I know that it's helpful because I actually just had a family that moved out of district and their new district charges them the 40 cents and they were confused. They thought that they were in the wrong meal category. And so I know we're helping people not have to worry about it and still getting food. And then too, as far as breakfast, we do universal free here. So everyone gets a free breakfast. Um, and our participation for breakfast, I feel like it's higher than maybe the average. We're at like 53 to 55. Part of that, though, at our high school, we added a second chance breakfast. So we serve breakfast before the bell. And so it is a hot item, some grab and go items, and they can pick and choose. And then we also have a second chance breakfast, which is right before study hall. So if they're a little bit late, it's not a huge deal. Um, but our participation, we kind of thought it would be like 50 kids. They're like, we can handle this. We ended up having to change the whole way that we were offering it to because our participation was so high. So we are serving every day, we're preparing grab and go bags where they then get to pick their fruit and the milk to go with it. But we're preparing 300 a day right now. So it's been super successful. And so that success helps make the free worth it because we're not losing money on it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, I did not know that. That's really cool. Um, Anyone else?
Yeah, up in Crandon, we're part of the CEP program, which has been really beneficial for us. I'm the new superintendent up here, so the thing that I noticed first was that a lot of the basic needs are not met here. So we've been doing a lot to combat that issue, like on weekends, weekend backpack program, different things like that. But similar with breakfast programming, just making sure that students, if they are running late or if they come in after a dentist appointment or anything like that, if they're hungry, they eat. So making sure that that's available to them. So I was walking through inside of our kitchen today, and there was a little elementary guy just waiting at the door, and I said, "What do you need, buddy?" And it was probably 8:30, and he just said, "I was hoping I could get breakfast." So they made him an omelet and got him fed. So I think the other piece too is to ensure that the food is good. A lot of the stuff I think we think of COVID and everything's processed and disgusting, where like we can make real meals and the cost is not It doesn't need to be outrageous. So I think that's a big piece of, and our biggest hindrance would be if it's not a good meal, the kids are just not going to eat it, or they'll grab it and not eat any of it. So I think the basic meeting those basic needs, and we would be about 60% free reduced lunch. So a pretty high poverty district up here, but it's been really beneficial. Obviously CEP, and then teaching our staff as well in terms of basic needs and being sure that those are met for our students, because if they don't have those met, they cannot learn.
Hi, I am
Good.
Anita. I want to just piggyback on what he just said. I can't speak for what is happening in other places. I can only speak what's happening in the inner city where I live at, in the schools around my community. I observed them sitting in front of the school, passing out cold breakfast to the kids. All kids are eligible in my area to receive breakfast and lunch. But the point of this, and what discourages me, is that we should have options. And they're repeating the same thing. Not only that, it seemed like the school too, the teachers, like you said, educate the teachers. Teachers too are discouraging the kids. Oh, I wouldn't eat that. I wouldn't eat that. And I think that's wrong. And I think that goes for lunch too. Okay, because back there in my days, Matt, and you know, everybody ate. Everybody smelled that food, and everybody ate. The principals, the teachers, and everybody. So we need to get back there. We're talking about, free lunch for breakfast and for all, but we still need to concentrate on the kids actually eating the food, because the kids cannot learn if they don't eat. And you're not a big role model uh, of the school to encourage kids that this is beneficiary and this is what they need to nourish their brains. We're going to be in the same situation we're in. Kids not eating. I don't know if that applies to what's going on, but I just like to keep it real. And I'm telling you what,
You do.
Anita,
You
I
always
think
do,
that's
Anita.
so, yeah, I think that's so important.
they
Having
are
the
late.
support. Yeah.
Can I finish? They are a supplying breakfast for kids that are late, but it's cold meal. I mean, it's cold. It's a cold breakfast, cereal, some bread. There was some cheese in there, and some yogurt. How often do you think our kids want to continue to eat that type of breakfast? I'm go to the school board meetings, and I keep allocating for home cooked meals. Get back to that. The Black Panthers stated that if you feed the kids a nutritious, healthy, culture-based food, they would eat it and they would thrive. It is known. It is written. We need to get back to those frame of mind. Sorry, but that's just the way I feel.
No, I think that's good perspective. Matt, if you don't mind, I'll jump in here. Um, I would just say to that, I think that's really important, Anita, to recognize the fact that having the support from building staff, teachers, administration is super important, because obviously those kids are looking up to them. And I've seen firsthand, what an impact that makes when a teacher sits down and eats with a kid in the lunchroom, or helps them with their breakfast in the morning. I want to shed some light on the fact that sometimes those cold breakfasts are served because of logistics, right? Staffing can be challenging at times. And so there's got to be a balance there. And a reminder to everybody that all of our meals do meet the national um, school lunch regulations and breakfast regulations. So even though it might look like a packaged item, they're not the same packaged items that you see at the grocery store, right? It's vastly different, but totally agree with what you're saying there about the support from the school community as a whole. I think is really, really important.
Also, to piggyback on that too, that it look like they're focusing more on the reimbursement money than actually the kids actually eating the breakfast. So to me, what I see in my lens, I don't like that. Just take the lunch, just take the breakfast, so that we can get our reimbursement. To me, it ain't about that. It's about the kids eating healthy, appealing food so that they can thrive in the classroom.
Anita,
All
I
right,
think we
Anita,
all,
go ahead.
Oh, I think we all
Oh, you
agree
go.
that we want the kids to enjoy what they eat, but like Caitlin kind of mentioned, it's a logistics thing. And so I think understanding what we are doing to offer healthy choices to the kids, we're working on tight time schedules. So I have staff that come in at 6 o'clock and they have breakfast ready at 7. And so we only have so much time allotted and we can't just add time because of our budget. So I don't want to just say, hey, just take the food and I don't care if you eat it. I want my kids to eat it. But it also, in order to continue having a successful nutrition program, it's 100% relied on participation. So the more kids that are participating, the more reimbursement we get, the better food we can offer. So that's why we do pay attention to the reimbursement.
Understand
I think
that
like
part. I really do. I feel you on that. But it's just the government is with the understanding that I'm getting of it. It comes from a lot of knowledge too. You need to know more knowledge. Dealing with the school board, learning about reimbursement, a la carte, it was a lot for me. And I thank God for Feeding America, the Food Leaders Lab, putting me in a space where I can learn. And I want other parents to be able to do that too. I feel that if we have more parents and community people's really understanding how this go about, I think we will have changes there. I think we need to start there, bringing knowledge to the community so that change can take place, so they can uplift their voice and feel that their voice matters. Because in one of the policies in the NPS state parent involvement, how can you be involved in something that you don't know what you're involved with? You can't bring something to the table. You can't. I'm sorry. Man, I'll shut up
no,
now. Once I get started, I don't know how to shut up.
I think something that you talk about a lot is it and just helps illustrate like it doesn't matter if your kid goes to school in Milwaukee or Marinette or Madison, is like every kid deserves access to a free meal that they're excited to eat. And
Yes.
I think what you highlight oftentimes is um like there's a lot of school districts that like have it figured out and have a budget and are able to do that. But then Caitlin and Stacy and others are able to talk about how tight those budgets are and how difficult it is. And really all this illustrates is just like there's not enough investment. Like there's just not enough investment in making sure that have the nutrition that they're looking for and that like all school districts have the funds to be able to put everything together in the way that they want to. Like that's all this illustrates is that like this isn't necessarily a school district issue or a school issue or like a kid. This is an issue that comes from just n lack of investment. Um, and the way that you talk about it and the way that is brought up in the chat, I can't remember who it was. Someone brought up a story about a staff member saying like they would love to hit up a salad bar if the school had a salad bar. I remember like I visited schools before, like middle schools and others that use salad bars as a way to do salads and also other food choices, and it's cool, but not everyone can afford a salad bar. Not every school can afford that. And then there's these grants that come out from like I think USDA used to have grants. No Kid Hungry once did some grants for this, but it's like for 20 salad bars, right? It's like, and there's 450 some schools. So, or school districts. Um, these are all stories and things that can and should be told to the people that are going to be making these decisions so that every school is in like a much better place,
Okay,
next
as
year.
far as the lunch and with the salad bars, I was really happy with the salad bars that are in PS schools and in the city now. And as you know, kids with a lunch have the percentage rate have went up. So I know I quit going into the school board meetings complaining all the time because they are listening. And that's when I said parent involvement. Educate the parents, give the parents the knowledge that they need in order to go to these school boards, in order to talk to elected officials, so that they can change, so they won't be afraid to speak or tell their story. how it's affecting them in their household. I want to be on that advocacy part of change with the breakfast and the lunch. I understand they don't have enough staff, and I understand all of that, but I'm still lost and I'm still confused. And when she said, I think that was Jackie, she stated, what do the community need? We need more talking points. We need points where we can elevate our voice of what to say, what to do, who to ask. Because, like I said, and I'm sad to keep saying this, but if it weren't for feeding America with the food leaders lab, I don't even think that I will know half of the stuff that I know. And I know it's a lot of other peers being a community organizer advocate that don't know. I'll shut up now, man.
Any other feedback on any of these things?
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm talking to the rest of the group too.
Oh, okay.
Any other feedback on other eliminate things that you've seen? Because that's going to lead into the next piece that we're going to do. We'll do this fast. And honestly, like it might be a thing where, I still, if there's a way to do it, I've been trying to find out a way to do breakouts, but there's going to be a question that we have. I'm not going to share my screen, but I'll say what the question is. Um, the question or topic that we're going to have that I would like to get a little bit more discussion on is identify a tactic or a strategy you've seen being heard or used, or you've seen being used or heard of being used that's successful in connecting more kids to meals. What is a tactic or strategy you see that works? What is something that works that you've seen or that you've read about? Um, and then we can come back together as a group and type into the chat box like what you've heard and had a couple people share. Um, if I don't do this breakout thing correctly, um, then guess what? We're all just gonna open it up and it's just gonna be people popping in. This will be a little popcorn and people can share. I'm gonna share randomly. So we're gonna see how this works. And it's gonna be probably pairing up. So we're just not gonna be long, but it's gonna be pairing up to talk a little bit through this. The other thing I'm gonna throw in here because of what came up from Jackie and Anita is what are talking points that you guys would really like? What are tools or talking points that you would like? What's one good idea you've seen or what's something you'd like to have? All right. Let's try this. And we'll come back in like 5 minutes or so. Let's go. Allison, I'm
Yes.
looking at the rooms. There's a ton of people that are in single rooms, and that doesn't make sense because we had 11 people and I did 5 breakout rooms.
I think a few folks have hopped off. I wonder if we just want to
I
have
think
this
they
as a
just
group.
hopped off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, do we want to
I'm
just close the rooms and bring everyone back?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's closing in 55 seconds.
That's too many seconds.
And the other thing is I messaged in the chat, but just sharing, I haven't seen Bryn hop on, but if we want to share a little bit about what Bryn had
Yeah.
messaged too as well.
There was
Hey, Nicole.
nobody in my there was nobody in my
Yeah.
breakout room.
I think some people didn't want to do the breakouts. I swear to you, there was 11 people on the call, and I clicked to go to breakouts, and it shrunk immediately. I think people were like, "Nope, no."
I said, I guess I talked too much. And everybody, I said, did nobody want to be in my breakout room?
No, there was. I swear, there was still 11. We had like up to 20 some people on the call, and it was like at 11. And I was like, okay, we could do like 5 breakout rooms, and then I'll pop into someone that doesn't have a. No, it didn't work. Um,
I'll start it though. What I want to see is more. I love the fact that the salads are being in the school, different salads, Caesar salad, taco salads. It's a variety of salads. But what I want to see when I went to a farm to school conference, I heard one person talking about how they do advertisement, how they promote that they made changes.
Yeah, I've
and
seen
I
that
don't see
too.
that in NPS.
They really market their meal program well. I've seen that
Right,
happen too.
right.
I used to, Beloit School District, I used to work with a nutrition director ages ago there, and she did an amazing job. I've seen other people do it well too. I know, honestly, people on this call, like Caitlin, like I've seen both of you guys, like you guys do a great job too. I'm gonna take notes on this. Does anyone else have anything? Okay, so does anyone else have anything they would have shared in a breakout, but because we're not doing breakouts, you can just share and type in the chat or share verbally.
I think having the information.
Sally?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Matt, so you shared something a really long time ago, and I asked Allison if we could track it down, and it was way too late because we couldn't remember where it was. But if we could have a spot where we can find the things, like you do a really good job of showing data, right? So you do a slideshow, and it is amazing. If we could have things kind of preset for like boards, like, okay, you have this and you're talking about this, like, whoop, plug it in, right? So you don't have to, so I don't have to look and say, oh gosh, where did Matt even look for that information? It's just kind of there. And then if we could have one for more geared towards parents and the community, just kind of like the same information, but preset so we can just plug and play, I think that would be really, really helpful.
Love it. Got that note. Anything else from folks?
So I know I see Connie on here, but I believe it was Connie who had mentioned, sorry, Connie, I'm throwing you under the bus, who had mentioned that her school board was putting universal meals for their district on the referendum. Was that you, Connie?
We've talked about it at this point. I'm not sure if it is going to go on there or
Okay.
not, but that was absolutely my hope. It would be wonderful if that would be something that we could do. I'm not sure where we are with that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, what's was there? Anything else? I like the referendum idea too. Um, well, we had a ton of really good feedback from this call, even from before that little discussion that we had. So I'm incredibly grateful to everyone for hopping on and for jumping into this discussion that we had. Next, I'm gonna kick it back over to Allison. Talk a little bit more about opportunities and things that are happening.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. And I've got something that's not yet in the agenda, but I want to make sure we touch on it. And then we are working to get a November, December recap newsletter out to all coalition members. So I know our group shrunk down here quite a bit, but I'll make sure it gets popped into the notes and then it gets into that November, December recap newsletter, which is going to go out next week. But we had received some information that there has been language submitted to the, I believe it is the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. And it is a language that says, so WASB supports state legislation to establish and fund a universal school meal program to cover the cost of all student meals not covered by federal programs. So this language has been submitted to WASB for consideration, and it's going to be voted on by WASB members in January. And if it gets voted in, then WASB can testify and support these bills that support this measure. So really exciting to see that this has been proposed. And it's something that, really important then to be talking with school boards right now and membership of WASB to say, hey, this is going to be on the docket in January. Here's our stories surrounding it. So I will include some more information and action items in that newsletter, but WASB is the Wisconsin State Education Conference that we are tabling at. That time period is all when this is happening. So just putting another little carrot on a stick that if you want to come and talk with folks at the WASB conference, the Wisconsin State Education Board, we welcome people to do that because there's this really exciting proposal that's out there. So I'll make sure that gets in the notes. A couple other things that I'm just going to highlight as I go down. So bottom of page 2, going into page 3, Gen Youth is a National Youth Council that's coordinated with the NFL, and they're looking for student nominations. So just wanting to get the word out to folks on this coalition that if you know students who are interested in, health, wellness, and physical activity, you can nominate them, and then they would submit an application for this program. So there's some more information. All the information from Gen Youth is here in our notes. Scrolling down just a little bit, bottom of page 3, Selena Darrow couldn't join us again this month. She's out in California, but she is an active Healthy School Meals for All Coalition member, and she has the nonprofit rooted in the Green Bay area. And she's really interested in chatting with school nutrition directors who are thinking about like the food waste piece. It's something she's very passionate about. And actually, I'll tie in Selena's request for, context to different school nutrition directors with an update from me from the National Farm to School Network Conference last week. So I had the opportunity to travel to Albuquerque as part of one of our grants for the National Farm to School Network Conference. And a lot of different topics were covered, but I'd say probably the 2 big ones were universal school meals that's happening in New Mexico, and the support that New Mexico has for local foods going into schools, child care centers, adult care centers, or adult centers. But coming back to that universal school meals in New Mexico, it was kind of funny because I think New Mexico and Minnesota signed like a day apart. So technically, New Mexico was going to be the 5th state, and I think they got bumped to being the 6th state that signed in universal free school meals. But they also have this food waste reduction piece tied in with their universal school meals policy. I won't go into too in-depth into it right here, but it's something that I'm hoping to invite someone to the February Healthy School Meals for All Coalition member from New Mexico to be able to talk a little bit more about some of the strategies they used in New Mexico with their universal school meals policy. So kind of tying in, Selena's interested in looking at food waste reduction, and this is a piece that's been included as part of a universal free school meals bill in another state in the country. Couple last things just to highlight. FRAC, I think we had this in our notes from last time, but FRAC put out a CEP fact sheet. So Matt was talking about CEP, and this fact sheet is highlighting all the districts in the state of Wisconsin. So, take a peek, check it out. I think the one disclaimer that I have with the fact sheet is it doesn't necessarily highlight, because CEP is a wonderful program, but there's some times where it just doesn't make financial sense for a district to participate because of how their numbers shake out. So I would really suggest that if you're looking at this and you have questions about the district that you live in, follow up with your school nutrition director to see, like, if they're not participating, are they one of those districts that maybe has that, where it's just not financially sustainable to participate. Want to give a shout out as well, and I know I'm just jumping right along, but I'm trying to highlight these different items in the agenda as we go. Spark and Innovation Collaborative Award Grants. These are open again and due in January. So I know everyone's holiday break, they want to be sure to be writing a grant. But we do have a little wiggle. We do have a couple of weeks when we come back from break to be working on this grant. But really exciting funding opportunity. The grant that I went out to New Mexico with is an innovation grant, and that is the grant that works to place culinary students into school nutrition programs to both help expand culinary capacity and staffing capacity, while also showcasing careers to folks in culinary school, showcasing the careers that are possible in school nutrition programs. So it's been really exciting. Our grant takes place both here in Madison as well as up in the Green Bay area. And the last couple of things, I'll take a breath here and slow down, but the last couple of things are links to those different resources that we currently have, and some action items. Again, we always say talking with your representatives about what healthy school meals for all would mean to you, and using the advocacy resources that we have. Nicole, I think you bring up a really great point. Yeah, we need to create those plug and play templates that people can use. And I took notes of what people were saying in the chat as we went along. So hopefully we can hit the ground running and get some of those tools out for 2026. But I'm going to pause there. Thank you all for staying with us. Does anyone have any questions at all? No? Okay. Matt, any last thing you want to add, or Stacy?
Well, I just want
Just go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to know before I lose focus. She said she had coming up, and Matt and you had put me on that before. I would love to come back down there again and volunteer
Great.
for the
Anita, we will
conference in
have you on the
January.
list
Oh,
for
you do?
walking.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure we put it on the record.
Yep, I will reach out. So we have you on the list, and then we still have 2 additional tickets for those who want to participate.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll be in touch.
Okay. Also, too, the innovational grant, I am on that advisory council too. They are providing free grant writing peoples to help peoples do their grant. So if somebody interested in it, they said, but feel that they're having problems writing the grant, they will provide a grant writer for you at no charge.
Mm.
That's great to know. Thank you, Anita.
You're welcome.
No, I just want to say thank you all for your incredible feedback and discussion, and suggestions on what type of tools that we can put together and how we can best empower and equip you all to be able to do this type of work in your communities. This was great. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward. I hope everyone has a wonderful holidays. I look forward to talking to you all in January too.
Thank you, everybody.